Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Think Like a Thought Leader show where Black entrepreneurs and leaders like you come to learn how to use their impact and influence to build generational wealth. Now, where are my educators in the house? Do we have any educators in the house? Today's show is just for you because we're talking about how you can position yourself to get paid more inside and outside the classroom. Let me just take a quick moment to share this on my personal page because more people need to hear about this. I'm connected to so many educators, and I want to make sure that we get them this knowledge because Dr. Bisa is going to drop it on us here. Hey, Dr. Bisa, how you doing?
Hey, how are you guys doing today? How are you, Courtney?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, before we dive, let me go ahead and share this. StreamYard is still a little clunky with me, so I'm trying to make this as smooth as possible. So I can share it on my personal page because it's going live on my business page. And my internet wants to be slow.
It's been raining here. I don't know about there, but
yeah, it's been raining here too. So that might play a role, but we're not going to let that stop us. Oh, here we go. Jeez, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, we'll share it on the personal page later. So before we actually dive in with Dr. Bisa, we have a lot to cover. And I know that the educators watching this are probably chomping at the bit to hear what Dr. Bisa has to say about becoming a paid educator. So I want to share some exciting updates. First, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in, for subscribing, for commenting, sharing, and messaging us with such affirming words of encouragement. It really, really fuels me. Nearly every week, someone mentions how much this programming resonates with them. And I'm so happy to be doing this work. Now, this show is part of my larger effort to create programming that centers the voices of Black thought leaders and entrepreneurs, elevates the consciousness and stirs the souls, moves the masses, and builds generational wealth and the legacies of Black people through entrepreneurship. This larger effort is called Black Market Multimedia. So in an effort to stay true to our vision and remain unbought, unbossed, and unapologetic, y'all, I'm never going to sell you out. We've created the opportunity for those of you who enjoy this transformational content to support us monetarily through Patreon. All meaningful work costs something. Creating a multimedia company requires monetary resources along with countless hours of emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and even physical labor. And so your monetary investment will help build a groundbreaking company that will shift paradigms and empower a generation of leaders and entrepreneurs with thoughtful programming and high quality content. Quite simply, we need your help. So for as little as $5 a month, you can invest in a network dedicated to creating programming for the uplift and the enrichment of Black people through media and entrepreneurship. So to patronize us, you can go visit thinklikeathoughtleader.com, scroll to the very bottom, and hit that button that says, let's build this. Thank you in advance for helping us to stay unbought, unbossed, and unapologetic. Now today, I'm here with my special guest, Dr. Bisa Batten Lewis. Now, Dr. Bisa is the founder and CEO of Ideal Early Learning. She's a best-selling author and of educational and parenting articles, college textbooks, children's books, music, and she's also been nationally recognized for having a learning system for children from birth to 5 years old. She's worked as an educator and administrator for over 25 years, from preschools to Head Start to teacher education and at the university level. Dr. Bisa is a diversely experienced educational authority and renowned public speaker. She's also the author of the recent book, The P.A.I.D Educator, 10 Professional Ways to Supplement Your Teaching Salary. And it's a practical and motivational guide for helping educators uncover innovative ways to use their current knowledge and talents so they can earn more. So again, all my educators in the house, what I want you to do right now before we even talk to Dr. Bisa, before Dr. Bisa even says another word, I want you to go ahead and hit that share button. I want you to share it with an educator that you love, because 55% of educators, of teachers, are unsatisfied with their salaries. Okay, 55%. That's just people that they've polled. I'm sure it's a lot more because I hear it from my friends, my peers, and my family members. So Dr. Bisa has some knowledge for us for how we can really empower our educators around getting paid what their work is worth. So I know that we're going to have a great conversation. Dr. Bisa, how would you describe the greater mission and purpose for your work in the world?
Thank you, Courtney, for having me, first of all. And I want people to know that it's not about the money, it's about the lack thereof. Teachers go without so much, and we end up having to fund our own initiatives, even when it comes to the good that we're doing for children. We can't ask for supplies that we need to implement real quality lessons. We have to go out and buy them ourselves. So my mission is simply to empower educators, because we come with plenty of knowledge, great skills, and we're not well compensated for that on our full-time jobs. So there are ways that we can do things outside of that to make more income, to increase our income. So that is the greater good, making sure that our educators are using their own skills. And again, it's not about the money, it's more about the lack thereof.
So, Dr. Bisa, how did you decide to pursue teaching as a profession?
Well, I honestly ran away from it, Courtney, at first. I changed my major 4 times. I love saying that in different speeches that I do, because I just knew I liked math when I went into college. So I was an accounting major. And then after accounting, I said, I want to do something that you have to have a degree to do, because I knew people who were accounting and they weren't, didn't have college credentials. So I wanted something a little bit more. So I was a computer science major, changed to that. And then, at that time we were programming, Courtney, in COBOL and Pascal. Who remembers that? So eventually I decided, I'm going to go ahead and try teaching, because people have always told me I'm great with children, and I do love children. And so, but I didn't want to work with the little children. I wanted to work with the children who could tie their own shoelaces and were more independent. So I majored in middle grades education, Courtney. And then after that, I realized after 3 classes in middle grades, I really should work with the younger children, because my professors were telling me I had this bubbly personality and I would be great with the younger children. And that's what I did. I ran away from it, but I eventually came back to it. And there are some teachers in my family, so it kind of ran through my veins.
So it was inevitable for you, right?
It was inevitable.
It was just something that you could not run from.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So I'm getting comments here. Someone saying that there's a really bad echo when I speak. Dr. Bisa, is there an echo for you when I speak?
No, not on my end.
Okay. Renita, I know you're watching. Let us know if the echo is still there. I put on my little nerdy headset here to prevent that.
I am hearing it now, though. I am hearing it now. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see here. I don't know what's going on. What about now?
Better for me.
Is it better? Okay.
Me, yeah.
All right. We're gonna roll with it. We're gonna hopefully the tech is gonna behave today. So Dr. Bisa, I'm sorry. In your book, you mentioned that according to the National Center for Education Statistics, 55% of teachers say that they're not satisfied with their teaching salaries. And at the same time, many people, whether they're educators or not, you hear them acknowledge that K-12 teachers aren't paid according to their true value. So why are teachers so undervalued in this country?
Well, I don't think, first of all, that people don't realize what we do in the classroom. And you guys, when we're as educators, we have such a connection with your children. There's so much I knew about people's children before their parents even knew. I knew about some of their experiences, personal experiences that they had that their parents probably didn't even know yet, because we were with them more awake times during the day. And so now during the pandemic, I see that parents are learning how much teachers do when they are valuing us more. But another thing too, Courtney, is government-wise. Government-wise, when funding's cut, guess where they come first? Education. And when they come to education, guess where they're cutting? They're not all, they may cut some of the higher up salaries, but a lot of times they're coming straight to the classroom. So that's, a reason we're not valued because of our pay, us being professionals, especially in the early childhood education arena, where I often train teachers as early educators. They're not viewed as professionals, they're viewed as babysitters. And we're always trying to, debunk that myth. So we need to make sure as educators, we are showing our value now. And I feel like now more than ever, the P.A.I.D Educator book is very important.
I gotta learn how to unmute myself. So what are the consequences of a society that undervalues its educators, Dr. Bisa?
It's a society that's definitely going down. We know that these days and times, people don't want to read as much because they can just Google it. Well, if you're in a real emergency, you may not have time to Google something. So a lot of things that educators are teaching in the classroom that you have to remember and learn how to actually manipulate things on the spot, actually apply knowledge. Well, people don't even want to learn that. The students don't even want to learn that oftentimes because, again, they can just Google it. And so I think it's really important for us to make sure that we're teaching memory and we're teaching, promoting knowledge. I love individuals, especially when I see knowledgeable folks going out there and they are boosting up education and they're you don't have to use big words all the time, but it's clear that they studied their topic. It is not just about being famous or being seen, but actually knowing your work. With social media out there, it's so easy, Courtney, to look like an expert in something when you're really not. But if you have pretty colors and you have a nice website, people will flock to you, especially when you have a major following. But it's so important that we understand education, you guys, is the key to everything. So no matter what profession you're in, you need educators. We teach everybody. I say that a lot in the book. We teach everybody. And there's no way that you could have made it to where you were without an educator at any level, from preschool on up to college and further. Even in your job, you have educators and specialists who train the staff out there in the corporate world. So educators are the key to everything. And if we don't have an educated society, people who value education, we're not going to advance. We're going to see other countries go beyond where we are. And we see that right now, Courtney, with this pandemic, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, speaking of the pandemic, that has caused schools and universities to shut down mid-school year, parents are now having to adjust to distance learning. And I've even seen them up and down my social media timelines thanking teachers for all that they do. And it's actually quite baffling to me because, especially because I don't have children yet. Why were so many parents surprised and even clueless about the work that teachers actually do? I know that you mentioned a lot of people view teachers as almost surrogate parents and babysitters, but why else were why was it such a surprise when their kids came home and they had to educate them themselves that, why was it so earth-shattering?
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit, Courtney, but I did hear your question. So again, we are, as educators are with your children for more awake hours during the day. So when I was in the classroom in public schools, I remember, by the time they go home, some of them go home and no parent is home yet, they're at work. And by the time the parent does come home, they have to cook and clean and, they make sure the child does the homework, but they're not really awake with them, more than 3 hours or so. So we're with them 8 hours a day, at least 6.5, whether in our classrooms and not at lunch or at PE or whatever. We're with them for 6.5 plus hours a day. And those are their prime awake hours. So we get to know them as individuals more. And parents don't get to know them like we do. Your weekend child is different from your during the day at school child. And so they don't often realize that. And I often have to get onto my constituents, my friends, my family, when they call me or send me a message, when they get ready to go out to the school and go to a parent-teacher conference and, tell the teacher off. And, I have to remind them, I've told you before that your child is not listening. You should not have to repeat your rules over and over. You should say it one time and they should do it. So I don't think parents realize before now how much of a handful their children may be. And this is just them at home, guys. Think about them with 29 plus other children in a classroom, and they're expected to sit there and do work a lot of times. So they have no idea what teachers have to deal with, and parents have been so disrespectful, and some parents. And I'll say, Courtney, I say this sometime as well in my speeches, that I've seen parents treat teachers like they were that brown sticky stuff that smells underneath your shoe. Because, yeah.
Can we talk about it? Let's get into it.
So when you go out to talk with a teacher, I've called parents before, and for different reasons, and I'm the biggest supporter as your child's advocate if I'm their educator, and I've seen it with other teachers as well, where they'll contact the parent where it could be small things, but they're letting the parent know, and can we partner on this? How can we help? And they'll get cursed out on the phone by the parent. So I want parents to learn to be partners with teachers. And Courtney, here's another thing. When you go to middle class and up, it gets worse. We see those people come in, I know everybody, and they want to pull they want to name drop and get people in trouble, get folks fired. Let's just address the issue. It's a simple issue. This is happening with your child. How can we partner to improve it? So hopefully after this pandemic, more parents will understand that teachers are your partners. Do we have a little small 2% that may, not do the right thing? Sometimes, yeah, you do have that amongst in any profession. However, so I'm not taking up for any misbehavior. However, make sure you are partnering with those teachers who do want to make a difference. If something does happen that is wrong on that teacher's part, of course, address it accordingly. Mm-hmm. But don't put us all in one bucket and say it's all the teachers. Those darn teachers.
And, I have heard that kind of rhetoric, and I'm also, like I mentioned earlier, friends with a lot of educators. And when this pandemic first hit, I remember seeing, different memes and, Facebook statuses where people were saying, well, the educators were saying, well, now parents, really know that their kid has been a problem in the classroom, So what can parents do? I know that we are talking about reopening the schools for the fall, and whether parents agree or not, whether they're going to put their kids back in the classroom or not, we need to still have this conversation around how parents and teachers can partner together. So Dr. Bisa, what do you say to parents who desire to truly partner with the teachers of their children and help ease the burden and take responsibility, right? While also holding teachers accountable for the kind of work that they do.
Yes. So Courtney, here's the thing, parent-teacher conferences are so important. And the higher you go up from after elementary school, first of all, elementary school, you have parents who come out, but maybe not all of them. You have some who come for conferences, and oftentimes maybe 0.25%, not most of them. But as you go up to middle school and high school, Courtney, guess what? Fewer and fewer parents come out to conferences. It's important whether your child is having issues or not. It's about getting to know that teacher, going out there to say, hi, I'm Mrs. Jones, and, I'm Randy's mom, and I just wanted to come out to meet you, even though Randy's doing well in your class. I just wanted you to know who I am and that I'm here. Should we need to have a discussion about anything, but show up, let them know you exist, especially when it comes to negative situations. When they know you're there, you're an involved parent, less is going to happen to your child that's negative, okay? Mm-hmm. So you have to show up to the school. But most parents, you never see them until something goes wrong. You wouldn't let my child go to the game. My child is banned from school activities because he got in trouble. He's suspended. Then they want to come out there. No, 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 no. You should already have a relationship with those parents. Let the principal, let the people know who you are. And that's really, really key. And here's the thing, Courtney, parent-teacher conferences are scheduled on your calendar for the whole year, so you know when they are, and you can schedule them aside from that. Teachers are more accessible now than ever. There's email. They have their own Facebook or certain pages that are approved by their county to use. They have Google Classroom. They're more accessible now than ever, and we should take advantage of that.
And so, I think some people who are watching may be saying, well, Courtney, we thought that this show was going to be about how to become a paid educator. Why are we talking about how parents can partner with teachers? What does that have to do with anything? But it is very related. The reason why is because when we talk about things like this, we also increase the perceived value of our educators. We just talked about why educators are undervalued, why 55% or more of educators are unsatisfied with their salaries. And so I think that it's important for us to talk about these things and to understand that we will not have educational reform without the support of parents and teachers, because the powers that be are going to respond to both parties. And so that is why we had to take the time to talk about how parents and how teachers can partner together, because that is going to help get educators paid more. So, Dr. Bisa, teacher strikes happen all the time, but it seems like significant changes are slow and, even regressive. We have an administration that has appointed Dr. Betsy DeVos as the Secretary of Education, and I know that is kind of dicey. There are some tensions there. So teachers often leave the classroom and they leave the profession. What are some of the most common reasons teachers leave the classroom for good that you've seen?
Yeah, great question, Courtney. And I'll start with, as a college educator, as a college professor as well, after you graduate, after our students graduate, within 4 or 5 years, we know they're leaving the profession. That's the current statistic. It's been that way for a while now. So they're going to stay in the profession 4 or 5 years, and then they're going to be gone to do something else. And it's because of the, oftentimes the parents, we don't get that respect and that support we need from parents. It's behavior. Parents have to teach their children how to behave, not just at home, but outside of the home. When I do parent workshops, I often say that, with my sons, they're 18 and 22 now, but it's important to teach them how to behave at home and everywhere. You can't jump on the sofa at home because you can't jump on the sofa when they're not at home. Make sure the rules that you're teaching them are consistent and you don't let them just run amok at home and then expect them to behave in public. So behavior is a huge reason why many teachers leave. The workload is really heavy, and especially because we have a lot more children with special needs now. We have a lot more children who speak multiple languages, and we don't always have the skills to work with all the children with the needs. And even though they may have an IEP, an individualized education plan, where they're supposed to work with them and have a special teacher to come in and support. Because there's so many now who are being diagnosed, we don't always have enough people to support on that end. So you have children all day who you don't have those supports for, throughout the day. They'll come in and check in here and there. So that's an issue. And then you have the testing situation. So testing, Courtney, my. If you look at some of the statistics of how many tests in one school system that students take in 1 year alone, it is baffling. So you have students that computers constantly taking tests where at the end of the day, those tests don't prove a darn thing oftentimes. So you'll see now even colleges are saying, you know what, we're not going to look at SAT scores anymore because, we just want to know that you are smart enough to come in this program and complete it. We want completion rates. So thank you, colleges are catching up. Too many darn tests. And then another one is administrative support. I have been blessed to have some really great administrators and supportive enough where any situations came up, they knew me well enough to offer the appropriate support. But that doesn't always happen, especially in schools now. They're so large where you have 300 plus teachers and 3,000 or more students, and the principal has a gazillion other things to deal with. So administrative support is what teachers often report that they're not getting. And I recall, you guys know about the cheating scandals. A lot of teachers do feel pressured where, hey, if my students don't pass this test, it's going to affect my pay. Performance pay is an issue. And, and they don't want to cheat, but they're being called in because of their failure rates. So a lot of students are getting grades. I tell parents, you know what? I don't even look at grades. You look at grades, but do know, just because your child has all A's and B's doesn't mean they're smart. Okay. You want to be careful with grades. I've seen students have a 30, but somehow they end up passing with a 70 within a week's time because teachers are being pressed on their failure rates. So if you're telling me that I'm probably going to lose my job because too many of my students have low grades, well, guess what some teachers will do? They're going to make sure they do what they need to do to keep their job. So it's a lot. And because of that, and I'll end here, because of that, you have a lot of students who are passing through the system who are not really passing. They didn't do anything to earn those grades. They know someone's going to give it to them, especially in high school. They know someone's going to give them their grade at the end. So why turn in my work? I know they're going to give it to me, especially in low income communities where they're trying to make sure they continue funding and they're successful. So all of these are issues, and teachers are under pressure trying to figure out how to navigate it all.
Dr. Bisa, I want to go back to something that you said earlier around behavior, because this show is dedicated to Black people and to emerging Black leaders and entrepreneurs. And so often when we talk about education, we have to talk about the impact that economics plays and all of that. And so you mentioned low income communities, and oftentimes, unfortunately, there are instances where there are parents who are overworked, stressed, and underpaid themselves, and also undersupported, if we're talking about single parents. So what do you say to those parents who say, Dr. Bisa, I hear you. I know I need to keep little Johnny, straight, but I'm doing all I can to raise my child. I know my child needs a great education. What do I do?
Teaching your children to be independent is first and foremost from the beginning. They drop a toy on the floor, you shouldn't be hurting your back going around picking up the toys at the end of the day, or you should have them help you clean up. I have a potty training book, a Let's Potty book for children, a board book. And, I tell parents about that book, hey, it's important when you're learning to teach them, they're learning how to potty, that if they have an accident, you don't clean everything up. You're a potty training team. You're a cleaning team, and they're helping you. They're going to get their diaper or their pull up, or they're helping you clean up. So, but when we do everything for our children, which is happening a lot, Courtney, this is the result. Children don't feel like they have to do anything for themselves because someone else is going to do it. And they're not going to be independent. They're going to need us for everything. And it also happens at some point because they're being passed when they're really not passing in some instances. They're not doing the work, and they're not independent because their parents have done everything for them. They grow up and they need a job. And people hire them. And I have sons, again, who are 18 and 22. Well, one 19 now. My son turned 19 on Sunday, my youngest son. And at work, they end up working so much because it's hard to find young adults and teenagers who will come to work and have a great work ethic. So these managers have a hard time. And all that translates over into college as well. The same thing that happens in the school systems, Courtney, happen in college, where students, they're not passing like they should, and they're supposed to be professionals soon. And so there is, again, that professor in the situation where I have too many students failing. What do I do? I'm being pressured here. So going back to your question earlier in the beginning, all this goes together, Courtney, because we're raising a society of children where we're not preparing them to lead us into the future. Now, we do have some hot shots out there who are killing it. Let me say, I saw the students at Harvard, the Harvard Diversity Project. Kudos to you guys. Congratulations for getting into that project. We got some students who are doing the darn thing. Some of these Gen Zers and millennials, they're killing it. But we do have to look at the whole picture and realize that we're doing our children a disservice when we're not making sure that they are independent. So those of you guys who are single parents out there, you're talking to one. And I made sure that they were independent. I'm not saying I left them at home and all of that, but I made sure they knew how to do things on their own, and it supported me as a parent. And lastly, Courtney, some of your married friends may say, well, you probably taught your children how to do the laundry, and mine knew at 7 and 9 how to do their own laundry. Well, you taught them how to do all of that because you're a single parent. It doesn't matter. Single or married, your children at certain times, they should be able to do certain things. So I'll pause and get off that soapbox.
Well, it's a soapbox that you definitely have the authority to be on, given your extensive experience both inside and outside the classroom. And so you're an educational powerhouse. So thank you for sharing that. I want to talk to our educators who are here and they say, I need to get paid more for what I do. To those who are dedicated to their jobs, dedicated to the profession, specifically Black educators. Do you see that there's a difference in compensation between Black teachers and white teachers, or teachers of color and white teachers?
It depends on where they're living, and it depends on the level. So some school systems do pay based on your credential level. So what degrees you have, and also how many years of experience you have in the field. Some school systems, so that's the main piece right there. So when they pay on a scale like that, it's not really, you don't really see that color issue. But where you do see it, what I personally seen it is at the college level, the university level. And I was talking earlier today on another call about this interview. I've seen college professors who were African American who were paid $10,000 less than their white counterparts, and they went to amazing universities. I mean, top universities in the country, and they're getting paid $10,000 less. And some of those colleagues, Courtney, check this out. Some of those counterparts didn't even have a doctorate yet. They were ABD. Arbor dissertation. So I've seen it more at the college level because there's you have that flexibility there. But usually in the school systems, it's based on that ladder and that scale is what they call it. So when that's the situation, it's not usually there. Okay. But they can vary when you don't have a scale. So I will push for that. And here's the other area where it happens in the school system, Courtney, with the performance pay, the merits pay. If they don't have a true system where they're looking at, it depends on what they're looking at. Sometimes they are looking at scores. And where the county I was in, where we noticed it and where we started pushing and we feel like they started to solve the issue, you're looking at our scores, right? And it's a school system with all different kinds of students based on where you are. Well, if in my school, most of my students speak a second language, or English is their second language. We have a lot of disabilities. We have a lot of low income. My students are never going to reach up to the level of your students. So does that mean based on where school you're at, you're making more money? So that's whether the issues come into play. And once that was addressed, we feel that they put a mechanism in place to ward against that. So, but school systems have to really be careful. But it takes a whole committee of people looking at these formulas that they're developing to perform, to fulfill merit pay. Make sure that your zip code, you're not being punished because of the zip code that you're working in.
So, Dr. Bisa, your book maps out the 10 ways educators can supplement their. It's called the P.A.I.D Educator. What are the common misconceptions that educators have about making more money?
Thank you. And so the P.A.I.D Educator, I'm excited. I was so excited about this book because I tell educators all the time about some of the things that I do. And I'm like, I'm not bragging. I want you can do it too. You can start a tutoring program. You can start this program. So it's important that educators understand what their skills are and how they can use those skills they've honed to make more money. And Courtney, ask me that question again to make sure I key in on it.
So the misconceptions that educators might have about making more money, we have this narrative, which I mentioned earlier, about how educators, especially K through 12 teachers, are not paid adequately. 55% are dissatisfied with their salaries. So with that story, with those stories, that impacts an educator who says, who starts to make their career choices, right, off of these narratives. Teachers can admit, I really don't get paid a lot. So what are some of the common misconceptions that they have around making more money and supplementing their income and really empowering themselves?
I think they think they have to do a lot more and they don't have the time to do it. I've always had something on the side. In the book, I talk about professional ways, but I was a Mary Kay sales director. I had 3 Mary Kay cards. I've done different. You heard of the business? I've probably done it. I've done cookware and made $2,000 per sale because I was selling to athletes or whomever. So I've tried a variety of things, and some people think again they have to work so much more outside of the classroom. And teachers are already tired, Courtney, when they get home. Especially the first couple of years. Definitely the first year you teach. The second year it gets better, but when you come home, you pass out.
Yeah.
And it's the third year before you really started to realize, okay, this is routine. I can use my lesson plans from last year, but tweak them a little bit more. I think I got it where I want it. And so the third year, you start feeling a little bit more comfortable. So teachers who are in their third year for sure, start thinking of small ways that you can start making more money. And you can start with one thing. So that's one misconception, is they think first, Mary Kay always said a confused mind does nothing. And so they get all jumbled up. Or being a business owner is so much. I don't know if I can do that. Don't think about that yet. First, think about, what are my skills? And I'm going to use Mother Google to go and figure out how I can monetize those skills. And that's one thing I talk about in my the P.A.I.D Educator Forum. I do a 4-week forum training with individuals who want to learn how to, cash in. So the P is for prospects, A is for allies, I is for information, D is for dollars. So we spend a week on each one, and I help them. We have all kinds of charts and things we do to help them hone in their prospects, allies, information, and dollars to kill those misconceptions. And then they realize that it's not as hard as they thought it was. But you can't be lazy and be a business owner. I will say that. But even if you do one thing, Courtney, I think you have to determine how much extra money do I want to make a month. First you start out with, I'm gonna keep my teaching job, and even if you're not teaching, this is for other professionals as well. I'm gonna keep my day job, but I want to make an extra $500 a month. How can I use skills I already have to do that? And again, people are driving for rideshare companies. All that's fine. But I like to focus on the professional ways, because it adds to the devaluing of teachers, Courtney, when they see us working part-time in the mall and, driving Uber, driving rideshare. I want them to hone in on those skills that they do every day, that teachers right now and parents right now, the world is seeing that they need educators to support their daily work with their own children. So this is an amazing time, the perfect time to think about what your skills are, who are your prospects, what are your prospects in terms of business goals. And that way you can plan accordingly. And at some point, it might take 5 years. That's the general number I share. It takes about 5 years for people to know who you are in your business, and you can constantly start getting contracts. So I don't recommend you quit your job and jump out there. It takes about 5 years or so. And right at 5.5 years, Courtney, is when I quit my job. I was a dean at a college. And one of my faculty members died. I talked about it in the book. And she would always say, you know what, you work so hard. My sons were younger. You work so hard. And, you need to make sure you're spending time with your sons because, when you're gone, they're going to forget about you and they're going to keep on moving. When she died, Courtney, it was 5 p.m. when I got the call that she passed away. By the next morning, we had all of her classes covered. And she was like 8 classes at the time. We were paying her extra, teach some extra classes. She was teaching 8 classes, some online. We had all her classes covered by 11 a.m. the next morning. And it echoed in my head what she said. Because I kept getting calls, we got to cover her classes. And so I did what I had to do on my job, but it came true. So we're working ourselves to death, Courtney, but we have to figure out a plan where I may keep my job forever in the classroom for my whole time until I retire. Or at some point, I may decide, you know what, I want to be an independent business owner. Don't think about the business ownership at first. Just start building. And that's what I did. I love making an extra few $100s a month. That's your car note. That's your dream home, whatever. And then build from there. So the confusion, Courtney, and the clouding of your mind, thinking that it's unattainable, that's the primary misconception. Those are the misconceptions.
So you mentioned that teachers should really take an assessment of their skills and leverage them to make more money and to supplement their incomes. And I tell people all of the time, that's why I love doing the show. And this is why I do what I do, because this is for Black entrepreneurs and leaders. And I believe that, not everybody necessarily needs to own a business, but everybody does need to be entrepreneurial. And we're starting to see the impacts of being entrepreneurial in this pandemic. And so I think a lot of teachers now, hopefully, they'll have more time to really sit and do that assessment, understand what their unique skills are, and leverage them to make more money. So can you talk about what that looks like for some teachers who might be watching and saying, okay, Dr. Bisa, I get it. I know I have some skills, but, I've been in the classroom for 25 years, or I just got out of college with an education degree and I'm a first-year teacher, second-year teacher. What do you mean by skills, and what do you mean by being able to supplement my teaching income with those skills?
Very good. So I talk about how you think about what you like doing and what you do well. I started primarily when it comes to professional, different things I was doing professionally. I was doing workshops for local organizations, started out with churches who wanted their teachers trained. And so I had to figure out how to do that. And this was before we had Google and all of that, but I had to do my research, and I found out there was a 5-day course I could take in my state to make myself a trainer, and a state approved trainer. So when I do training, that the educators actually get approval, a credit for it that they can use to go to the next level. So I did that. I made sure that I was official when I go out to do training. And I started doing training for a church, and made really good money. I can't believe I made this much money doing this training. And then that pastor told another pastor. And I started helping with grant writing. And that pastor told another pastor. And then it just went on from there in the community. And here I am now, 20 plus years later in terms of workshops. I've been doing training, and I've gotten to the point now, Courtney, as I'm older, I don't want to be on my feet all day. I was in a workshop once, and the woman, she was much older. She had on these, the shoes to be comfortable, and you could tell it was just hard for her. And I said, I don't want to be, 70 doing workshops. I want to figure out what I can do. So I started figuring out ways to make money in my sleep. And this is something I talk about in the P.A.I.D Educator Forum. And I wake up oftentimes, Courtney, and I turn over after I say my prayer. I look at my phone, and I'll have orders, and I didn't do nothing. It's been teachers pay teachers. Some teachers really hate on that, but it's a really good, I'm telling you, teachers pay teachers is awesome. I haven't put anything up there, I don't think, since 2016. I don't do anything to it. I wake up in the morning and I have orders.
And so this is a platform. It's called Teachers Paying Teachers.
Because teachers, Courtney, we're so creative. We, teacherspayteachers.com, we as teachers develop all these things. We develop all kinds of tools, and we're so creative to help our students to learn. There are some teachers who've been millionaires just from Teachers Pay Teachers. One first grade teacher, and I taught first grade years ago, she created some fonts. Because, we have our wall with our alphabet on them and everything looking cute. She started selling those. Well, she's a millionaire now. One teacher started writing activities for children. She made $8 million on Teachers Pay Teachers.
What?
So they're doing this stuff already. They're creating packets and workbooks for their children for certain chapters and units. And I talk about that in the book as well. And they're not selling them. They're putting them on Pinterest and giving them away. Stop it.
You heard Dr. Bisa, y'all.
I love
Say it again, Dr. Bisa. Say it again for the folks, because I don't know if they caught it.
But don't give away all your ideas. Sell them, because there are people out there selling them and they have no educational background, guys. So think about what you want. I give away a whole lot more than I sell. I have a national curriculum, and this is the time of year a lot of teachers wings, WINGS curriculum. People are ordering for next year for their schools, and I love we have those orders coming in. But guys, here's the thing. You have done this before. You've created activities for children. I just made mine a product, and so they can go on Amazon to buy it. I made sure it was official so school systems can order it. It's a part of their online system when they go on to look for their state for curriculum to buy. And I might be the only Black-owned one on the list too. But I love that I simply took what I was teaching people anyway and made it a product. What do you have that you're already doing well that you can make a product? Amazon is amazing now to publish on. I stopped publishing the way I was publishing before, and now I publish on Amazon for like the curriculum, because it's so much easier and it doesn't take upfront money to do it. So ladies and gentlemen, check out Amazon KDP, Kindle Publishing, Kindle Direct Publishing, so Amazon KDP. And there's a lot of ways you can put your books and workbooks on there. They'll publish them and you only pay the author's fee when you sell them. So you're not spending upfront money like I did, spent $40,000 plus to develop my curriculum. You don't have to do that because you have Amazon and other systems now. You have BookBaby. So I'll pause there.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing all those resources. So I don't know if many people know this, but teaching was once considered a career for men until the mid-19th century when the public school system was created. But now research says that about 77% of public school teachers are women. Now, Dr. Bisa, do you think that if men made up the majority of educators in our public school systems, would compensation even be an issue?
It may be talked about more and changed. So I'm with you on that. And we do have a lot of men in education, but they're in administration. Yeah, a lot of them are in administration. In early education, before third grade, you hardly see any men. You're lucky if you have one or two in your school.
I can believe that.
Yeah, so that's something to definitely think about. But I have noticed that a lot of them are in administration, especially in their early years. But I do believe in that trend that, hey, it's definitely a possibility that we could not have the professional issues and performance issues and pay that we have if it wasn't a women driven profession.
So would you say that there's more of a need for leadership of women at the top?
Yeah, more leadership of women at the top and more men in the classroom. A lot of these children don't have fathers or father figures around them, especially Black men, guys. We need some brothers. People, they're amazed. I used to bring in speakers all the time for my high school students when I taught early childhood in the high schools, training high school students to be teachers. And I would have the speakers come in. When I have my men friends come in who are, in their suits and they're Black and they're Dr. So-and-so, and they're like, it's like they're seeing a unicorn. Okay. So we need to make sure our students see more buttoned up Black men. We need to make sure we're raising our sons to be buttoned up sometimes. Things have gotten so casual, Courtney. Church is casual. I was blessed to date a really some Morehouse man. And loves a Morehouse man from a certain age.
Morehouse men.
One time for the Morehouse man. And I tell you, one thing that when we were dating, he said to me, he said, I know church has gotten all casual. The boys can wear jeans and a polo and shirt to church. He said, make sure one Sunday a month that you have them dress up, because they need to know how it feels to dress up and to be comfortable being dressed up. That meant the world to me as a single parent. Right. So, yeah, we need to show more Black men in suits who are well spoken, so they don't think that President Obama is a unicorn. We love him, and he kind of is a unicorn. But there are plenty of brothers out there who are smart, intelligent, articulate, and we're not showing them. We need them in the classroom, not just at the top. And yes, we need more women at the top and in administration as well.
So, given the state of things, what do you think is the future of our schools and other institutions of learning? We are in an upheaval, Dr. Bisa, and a lot of parents, a lot of educators, and even a lot of administrators are unsure of what the future looks like. If you had a crystal ball, you've been in this long enough, I think, to be able to read some tea leaves. What do you think the future is?
Number one, it's going to be a lot of technology involved. I was really surprised to see how many school systems were not ready. Even colleges and universities were not ready when COVID happened to go online. It should have already been in place. I don't understand that. So there was a lot of issues with teachers and people using technology. So even if you're teaching face-to-face every day, technology should be a major component, because that's how a lot of students learn, especially in this day and age. So technology is going to be primary. You're going to see a lot more online schools. My sons, I did a couple of years of online school with them when they were younger. And 10 years ago, we had great technology. It was amazing. They got their science kits and their books in the mail, but we were on an online platform. They had 70 children in the classroom. People got their turn to read. You got to write on the board online on the screen 10 years ago, Courtney. But people were not ready in traditional schools to go online this time. Often, many of them weren't. So I see a lot of online happening, more online schools. I also see, and this really needs to happen, full school reform. Because what students are learning these days is not preparing them for the future. It's really not. I love Iron Man. We're a Marvel family over here. And I love how, Tony Stark makes engineering and math look cool, right? But that's not what they're being taught in school. If your formula doesn't look like the way they told you it should look like, then you're in trouble. We saw in Hidden Figures how Taraji P. Henson's character was able to go up on the board and figure out we need to teach critical thinking. She was able to critically think her way. Katherine Johnson and all those women who were, they talked about in Hidden Figures, who it was based on. So we need to make sure in education reform that we are changing the whole curriculum, where we're teaching them what they need to learn in this day and time, and they're able to apply it into everyday life. It is not just learning just to learn. People need to know what this is going to lead me to be able to do in real life. Even though I don't know what I want to be yet, tell me that these math formulas, I may not see them every day, but some of you guys are going to be great engineers like Tony Stark. Something like that to boost their education. But we really do need to look at, when you go to college, how many maths you're taking again. You're taking math, all over again. You're taking language and literacy, literature all over again. So we need to look at that as well, because college is taking 5 and 6 years, Courtney. Is it about the money or what? Why is it taking that long for people to go in, learn a skill, and graduate? So looking at all of the core classes in college, and do we need them all? Can we collapse some? So there needs to be some major education reform, because I say this, I don't like to say it out loud, but I'm going to say it. I feel like the world is getting dumber and dumber.
What do you mean by that?
And it's often because of the lack of learning that's happening, because people are able to just go online and find information and not learn it themselves. If you put something in front of a child or an adult, can they problem solve and critically think their way through it? That's not happening a lot. People don't want to learn for the sake of learning because they feel, again, they can look it up. But knowledge is so important, and it's just not valued as much anymore. I have a friend I really love. She's in the music industry, and when we're having conversations, she'll say, "I remember whatever we're trying to remember." People pull out their phone and start Googling. She said, "Don't Google. I want you to remember. Use your brain. Use your brain." And I love when she does that. So I think that we need to make sure that we are, especially here in our country, and we're supposed to be the free world and leaders, we need to make sure that we're building a learned society of people who are going to take over. So our young adults, our teens, we need to look at the curriculum and make it interesting for them. Make me like math class. Make me like science class. But the curriculum that's put there for the teachers is tough. And they're being creative and spending their own money to make it interesting and make their way through it. But that shouldn't have to be done just at that level. School systems have money for professional development that's not always spent for professional development. And especially some of my Black school systems, Courtney, I'm amazed at how much professional development they don't get. So looking at your budget, are you top heavy? Is the money going to administration? There needs to be enough training for those I got hundreds of hours of training every year in the school system I was in, because it was available online and face-to-face. They put it in their budget. But some of my friends who work in other school systems as administrators, they're not seeing that money. And their teachers don't know how to use online tools. The teachers don't have strategies for the curriculum on a day-to-day basis. So again, a lot to think about, but education reform, we're going to have to totally redo everything.
So Renita is tuning in, and she says, I agree with all of this. And she also says so much of what's needed isn't taught in school. So she definitely echoes your sentiments, Dr. Bisa. So last question. If you had the power to change just one thing, I know you mentioned a lot of things, but if you, Dr. Bisa, had the power to change one thing about the education system here in the U.S., what would it be and why?
I would change the curriculum. Yeah, I would definitely change the curriculum. And from preschool on up, preschool, we're doing a pretty good job in early education now. But we need to make sure that we have appropriate standards and that we are implementing activities in the classroom that are appropriate, even at the college level. Because when you get to the college level, they're not also being trained in some instances the way they should to be prepared to how to teach now. And that's one thing I wrote about in my dissertation 10 years ago at UGA, go Dogs, that how our early education faculty at the college level who've never worked with young children, how are they training teachers to work with young children, but they've never done it? And that's primarily what it was on. Informal learning and early childhood faculty was what that was on. So I'm going to say curriculum. We need to make sure that we're not just having standards and tests out there, but what are we really teaching and how are we making sure that it's applicable to daily life so that at all levels, they can apply that knowledge. Science is amazing. Courtney, check this out. A lot of times in elementary school, children aren't getting science and social studies. They're getting grades for it, but they're not really getting true science and social studies until they have to change classes and they have a class just for science, just for social studies.
Oh, wow.
Ouch. But they're getting a grade. And I had to go out to the school before about that because my son got a B. And I'm like, if you had given him the opportunity to earn his own grade, he might have even got an A, who knows? But the teacher had to produce papers because and it wasn't even his handwriting, because she had never done any science and social studies. She did math and language, English language arts all day. They didn't know science and social studies. And we'd have some real Tony Starks if we really were teaching science, because we're wearing science,
Absolutely. 100%.
All of that, yeah. So I digress.
No, this is all great stuff. And I so appreciate you taking the time to stop by the show to share with other educators and aspiring educators how they can become highly paid educators, because I believe that education is a calling, and it is worthy of high compensation. I'll say that again. Education is a calling, and it is worthy of high compensation. And so, if you are an educator or an aspiring educator, and you're looking to become a highly paid educator, I want you to go to grab Dr. Bisa's book, The Paid Educator. You can get that on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. She's a best-selling author for a reason. She came through. She dropped 2 amazing practical resources that you can use today to start supplementing your income. One of them is payteachers.com, and the other one is the Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. So you can start publishing your own curriculum. So you can start publishing your own books because you have it in you. So, Dr. Bisa, where can people go to learn more, connect with, and work with you?
Great. So drbisa.com, DRBISA.com is my website. So you can see my coaching courses there. You can see the books there, what else I do there. And I have I started a Paid Educator podcast right before COVID hit, but you'll see those episodes coming on soon. And I'm basically interviewing different educators about what they do, so people can see that I'm not a unicorn as well. And they can see that there are plenty of people out there doing it, making great money. And again, it's really not about the money, it's the lack thereof. And we're showing how to support teachers in different ways and anyone who wants to think as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Dr. Bisa. I hope to have you on the show again because you are just a reservoir of knowledge. And I do hope that someone watching and listening today implements all of the things that you shared with us. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you for that.
So if you enjoyed this conversation and it inspired you in some way, I'd love to hear about it. I want to know your number one takeaway. So if you're watching this, go ahead and drop down in the comments and tell us what your number one aha moment was. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, go ahead and take a screenshot of you listening on your device, post it to Instagram stories, and tag me at the Courtney Bowden so I can share it with the world and with Dr. Bisa. And if this episode spoke to your soul, go ahead and hit that share button or tag someone who needs to see this conversation in the comments. And finally, if you want to hear more conversations and content like this with some amazing thought leaders like Dr. Bisa, and if you want to help keep us unbossed, and unapologetic, become a patron for just for as little as $5 a month to patronize us. Please visit thinklikeathoughtleader.com. Scroll to the very bottom of that page. Hit that green button that says, Let's Build. Thank you in advance for your support. And finally, if you have any questions, please email us with show topics and suggestions to thinklikeathoughtleader@gmail.com. That's all from us. Thank you for tuning in. Take care and stay well. Bye.